part of the Earglue Media family of podcast.
You're listening to the Cantina Cast, your home for thought-provoking Star Wars talk. Join Albert and Jonesy in breaking down the latest news, trailers, movies, and of course, your favorite characters from a galaxy far, far away.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cantina Cast. My name is Albert Padilla, and this is episode 326, The Skywalker Saga, The Phantom Menace. So, Mike and I got together talking about what exactly we want to kind of plan out and do over the course of the next, 9 weeks or so. And one of the things that we both agreed on was that it was probably finally time to have this kind of retrospective viewpoint of all the movies. And we're going to talk a little bit more about exactly what that means, because we're not going to go a full deep dive into that. But joining me with me tonight, as always, as you can see right there to is this my left, my right? My right-hand side.
Right. I think you're right. My left, you're right. I don't know. But
My left-hand man, the Phantom Menace himself,
Oh, yes, I am.
Mr. Mike Rondo.
I'm surprised you didn't, say congratulations for hitting the right button on the board with the intro this week. So,
No, well, we actually did a dry rehearsal before it, so it was pretty inevitable that you wouldn't screw it up. I still had faith in you that you'd mess it up, but
Well, I'm glad you had faith in me, because I was a little nervous. I get so much crap. I got to rearrange all this at some point. But anyway.
yeah, your arcade back there is looking pretty hot. I got to say, man, you're doing really well with the number of machines back there.
Well, I actually ordered another one today, but we won't discuss that here.
Yeah. Hope your wife's not listening to this.
Yeah, I hope not either. But yeah, so I got the new Pac-Man and everything, but we'll talk about that. But yeah, they keep multiplying. It's kind of like an addiction of mine. I don't know.
So weird. I don't know how that happens. Huh.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. Well, let's
actually, I blame the basement and all that. Getting into that got me fired up about it. But anyway, let's get on with the show, sir.
Yeah, let's talk about. We got a couple things to talk about news before we dive into the main show. Let's start with the High Republic delay. So
yes,
this kind of came out of nowhere. I was not expecting this, honestly.
Well, you know what? As pessimist, I guess that's a good. I don't mean to cut you off. I've been yeah, but I'm willing to give this a shot, right? However, I was a little surprised with the delay though, because I figured at least the first book, right? I figured that's going to be coming out in August, so we would. If anything, that could push back to, October? I didn't think it'd get pushed back this much. But anyway, continue. I didn't mean to.
No, that's fair. It's a fair point. I mean, August, I think, is when this was supposed to first launch. And we are now getting pushed back all the way to January 5th. So A Test of Courage and Light of the Jedi, those will be on January 5th with Into the Dark and what was the other one? I think it's one other one. That's February 2nd. The story here, though, is that these titles are all getting pushed back. So we won't spend a lot of time speculating on why this is. I mean, there was a nice letter that was written and essentially talked about how, with COVID-19, maybe didn't get the right attention they felt it deserved and wasn't exactly where they wanted to be and all that. So this gives them more time. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing. God knows I have so much to read right now, which we'll talk about here in a second, that this is probably a good thing, a good breather for all of us. Anyways. I'm looking forward to it still, and I'm glad that you're willing to give it a shot at least.
Well, no, you have to. You can't. Even you have to see things and experience things before you can fully just. I mean, yeah, you can, like in the distance, say, all right, well, that looks like it's going to be this, but you can be surprised. So hey, I'm hoping I'm surprised. So we'll see. I'm sure there's a character that I'll cling to or like and go from there. So I'm optimistic. We'll see. You got to sell me on it though. You got to suck me in.
I will do my best to sell you on this.
All right. Well, I hope you do, sir.
Let's see what else. We got a new show that was announced. This was kind of out of nowhere. So this is the Jedi Temple Challenge, and this is kind of like a double dare. Kat we'll talk about her role here in just a little bit, but Kat mentioned that it was a lot like Legends of the Hidden Temple. If you remember that old Nickelodeon show where they'd have kids come out and do these obstacle courses and everything. This is very similar to that, so I'm wondering if there's going to be this lawsuit here, but maybe not. But this looks interesting. Like my kids are all over this. They think this looks amazing. It looks fun. I'll give it that. The only other thing before I poo-poo on it, I'm not going to poo-poo on it that bad. But the only other thing that I would say is the story that's the lead that's being buried here is the fact that we're getting Ahmed Best back into Star Wars in some way, and I think that's like my kids didn't even know who that was. I had to tell them. I was like, "Oh my gosh, look at that! Who is
Yeah,
it?"
yeah.
I explained to them, Jar Jar Binks, and it's like, "What?" Yeah. So it's great that they're throwing him some love, and this probably aligns with some of the rumors. I think if you remember, right before the Rise of Skywalker, there was all this talk about, oh, we've seen Ahmed Best, and he's hanging out at Disney. He's been over at Lucasfilm, whatever, blah blah blah. And then the speculation started going on about, oh, is he coming back? Is Jar Jar coming back for anything? And it turns out this may, and again, I don't have any proof of this, but it may just be that he was in early negotiations to talk about this particular show here and bringing this to YouTube Kids or Star Wars Kids on YouTube. So, what are your thoughts overall on the show here?
Well, it's funny because first off, there's something that I got wrong here. Is I thought this was going to be on Disney Plus.
Mm,
I don't know why. I just remember when they announced this last, what was it, like over the fall, right? When they announced this, I thought it was going to be on Disney Plus. I thought it was one of those things. Oh, they're going to add, because I thought they needed more content like that. But and then I find out now it's not. It's on Star Wars Kids. I'm like, all right, well that's not bad. I know my daughter. When I saw it, I thought of my daughter because she loves American Ninja Warrior. All those she likes what is it,
right.
Survivor, because of the obstacle courses. That's what she
Yeah.
loves
Yeah.
that. So she loves all that kind of stuff. And now there's a show like this, and she's competitive. I mean, she kind of wants to get on this show now. That's the thing I got to worry about. She was excited. She thought it was pretty cool. She thought it was awesome that Ahmad Best was Jar Jar Binks was doing it. So that was pretty cool. She was like, "Oh, really? That's him?" And so it was cool. And I'm glad
Yeah.
he's back. I wish we'd get him a role in some kind of a live action form too. I want to see him get a live action thing like that as well. But it's pretty cool. I think Star Wars, they need to do these little things with the kid, not little things, but they need to do these things for the kids too. I mean,
Absolutely. Yeah.
we're all very serious about Star Wars with the Mandalorian, the movies and everything, but the kids need stuff too. So
Sure.
this is good. I like it.
Yeah, no, this is good. And it's when we were at Celebration, there was a lot of promotional stuff. There was a booth that was dedicated to Star Wars Kids, and I remember coming on with T-shirts and posters. And at that time, there really wasn't a whole lot out just yet. I think they had some of the Star Wars Galaxy or what is it, Galaxy of not Galaxy Heroes. I'm drawing a blank on the snippets, the little 30-second cartoons.
Yeah. I can't
Galaxy
remember the name.
Adventures.
Jones, yeah, Jonesy's good with the names on those. He
Galaxy
knows what you're
Adventures,
talking about.
right?
Yeah.
I think there had
Yes.
been a few of those at that time, but there really wasn't a lot of programming on Star Wars Kids for YouTube. Now, if you go there, it is full of
Packed.
stuff. Yeah, and they're all little short bits and pieces, which is fine because
That's the
honestly,
attention span.
that's the attention span, right? I mean, they say the
some of the
average
adults are like that too. So
Yeah. Average 8-year-old, I think, is like, or 9-year-old attention span is like 6 seconds. It's about all you have to kind of get them and hold them. So it probably works out really well. So this is going to be June 3rd, 10 episodes. We're looking forward to it. Hope you guys are too. It looks like fun. The only thing that I had as far as beef is the fact that Disney has been known in the past to put child actors into programs like this or other programs
I
like that
assume
and
that's
script
it.
it.
Yeah, I assume that's it.
So that for me, it kind of rips away from the authenticity of this. But
That's very Sith-like. Just saying.
maybe
Disney.
this is the Phantom Menace. I don't know. We'll see.
It could be. Before we get into the Phantom Menace, I was thinking this today because my daughter was doing something. I don't know, something with Boba Fett, and it made me think of last week's show and something that's been a pet peeve of mine for a very long time. And I haven't discussed this ever on the show. It's just a real quick pet,
Well, let me
pet
put my
peeve.
coffee down. I got to hear this.
Yeah, you might want to put it down. You might burn yourself with it. So,
Mm.
this is my big complaint with Boba Fett. Because all right, so he's Jango Fett. Really, he's a clone, obviously, right? But we see Jango. He's got the polished chrome Beskar on. He's got the blue with it. The Slave One kind of matches, and then of course we see him in the Clone Wars and everything. And the Slave One, the color was changed with the Slave One. When we see it in the Clone Wars, it's changed to Boba Fett's colors. But Boba Fett never dons the armor. We never get any reasons why he picks those colors or anything like that, other than that one scene with Cad Bane, that unfinished animated thing, and he has the armor on at that point.
Yep.
But we never get a chance to explore why he's picked that color armor, why the Slave One was that before he even got the Slave One. So I don't know. I was always curious about that. It kind of, you would think he would want to pay homage to his
dad,
father clone. Right. I mean, right? Like you'd want to go with the blue again to carry on that, or is this I need to distinguish myself from my father, but pay homage at the same time? I don't know. Seems, I don't know, that bugs me. I don't know why.
I've never thought about it. I mean, it sounds trivial, but not to Star Wars fans.
Well, yeah, it's one of those nitpicks I have. I don't know why. You got your nitpicks. This is just one that just gnaws at me every now and then. I don't know why. I don't know why. But anyway,
I don't remember them ever explaining that in Legends either.
no, I don't think they ever did, other than the stripes on the top. Aren't they like Carillion? They're like the stripe. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. Someone will tell me, you idiot. You're definitely wrong. So I don't know. It just always bothered me that we never found out why he takes that color scheme instead of his father's. You would think George would have made it so it's like, oh, okay, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I know it's to distinguish both the action figures, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that might have been it. I think you're overthinking this. It's probably,
Yeah.
based on the fact that he was that character in the holiday special, and I said, okay, that's not going to work from a production perspective. Let's change the
We need to go
colors.
yeah,
This
exactly.
looks cool. Go with that. I mean, that's the honest truth.
Probably because of the white background back in Empire or something. Who the hell knows? I don't know.
Yeah,
But
his
that's
original
just
figure.
now you all know my secret one pet peeve of all of Star Wars. It's not even The Last Jedi. It's this. It's actually this.
Right. This is what keeps him up at night.
Yes.
Okay, let's a couple other things here. So we are proud, happy, excited to announce that we've partnered with both Del Rey and Disney Lucasfilm Publishing. So this is exciting because it allows us to start receiving the novels ahead of time, which we'll have a chance to read. There's NDAs and all that stuff, so we can't say anything about the books, of course, but it's going to allow us to hopefully have the day of release on some of these books, and not all of them. I mean, I can't read all these things. That's kind of complaining about earlier, first world problems. But for some of the bigger titles, we're definitely going to be able to do some homework ahead of time and kind of give you a quick rundown, whether that's a full breakdown or a review of some sort. Something we want to do that for you guys going forward on a lot of the major titles. So right now, I am several chapters into Shadowfall, which is a sequel to Alphabet Squadron. Highly recommend that series, recommend that book. I know there's a lot of our listeners or followers and supporters in Discord that follow that series. It's great. And the other one that I'm really excited about that I'm reading right now is Star Wars Clone Wars Stories of Light and Dark. So that is the collection of stories that kind of fit in between a lot of the Clone War episodes, and really great stuff. So on top of that, again, we've got other books that we have available. I don't know that I'll be able to get to all of these before they release. The good thing is, the really good thing is this is going to put us in a good position with the High Republic coming out. So all of those titles will be coming out between those two press companies, publishing companies, and we'll be there to bring you the latest on them as they develop. So
Very
exciting
good.
stuff.
We've done this long ago, back in the day. We did this 6-7 years ago. So it's good to be back doing this kind of stuff again, and look forward to it. Definitely.
Good. All right. Well, let's do this. Let's talk about. I mean,
do it,
it's like,
man.
wow, has no one ever talked about the Phantom Menace? Of course they have.
Yep. A few of us have.
But what we do is, let me give you a kind of a quick breakdown on the format of the show. What we're wanting to do here is really not do a deep dive into every single aspect of the Phantom Menace. I thought it'd be interesting to just kind of talk real quickly, and we have a tradition here of talking about numbers, box office, and all that. So we'll touch on that very briefly. I thought it'd be cool to kind of talk about some of the moments that we had off screen, either leading up to the movie, while the movie was going on, or even afterwards. And then after that, we'll get into some of our favorite moments all together. Like, hey, what's the stuff that really stood out to us? What are the big moments or scenes or quotes or whatever that is in each one of these movies, all the way from 1 to episode 9. And then lastly, I thought we could maybe break down a particular scene or quote, scene analysis, quote analysis, big tradition here. Do that with one of ours. So Mike, you're going to pick one. I'm going to pick one. We're going to talk about why we chose it, why it's meaningful to us. What did it mean? Maybe some of the stuff later on that came about as a result of that kind of thing. And we'll have to show up. So that's the format. Sound
Very good.
All right, let's
Sounds
jump
good
into
to
it.
me. Let's do it.
Phantom Menace premiered May 19th, 1999.
My daughter's
that was-
birthday, May 19th.
Was it really?
Yeah, that's her
Same
birthday.
year?
No,
No,
not
she's not
same year.
same
No,
year.
no,
Yeah,
no,
she's not that
definitely
old.
not. Well, she shares a birthday with Peter Mayhew, and she gets excited about that. Chewbacca.
That's cool.
So,
Yeah.
so that is pretty cool. So
The film did, I think, a budget. It had $115 million for the budget, and at that time, I remember that was unprecedented, right? It was huge in terms of how much money they had thrown at this thing. Box office worldwide 924. Oh, you brought it up for me. Thank you.
I did, sir.
924.
I didn't go to Wikipedia because I didn't want any ads or anything playing during the thing.
Yeah.
I always hate that, so I went to Wikipedia and I punched this up for you. I knew you were going to talk numbers, so I said I'm going to punch it up and put it on the screen so we can actually look at it. So this is what's nice about doing. I mean, I know the audience, the audio audience, doesn't see this, but trust me, it's fun doing the live stream because you get to see this stuff. But
Yeah, you get to see it.
continue.
Yeah, so 924 million. That's they put the equivalency there of 140 or 1.42 billion,
Pretty good.
based on 2019 figures. Yeah, that's not too shabby at all.
No.
And so that was definitely made a lot of money, and I think that's where we're going to start. I want to start. Let's start off about the off-screen stuff, right?
Okay.
And the first thing I want to talk about is the hype and whether or not the hype was warranted. And from our perspective, I know it's easy for us to say yes, right? Agreed?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was
Okay.
warranted, but did we take it to a level that was unrealistic?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we did.
We're all guilty of it. I mean, the problem was going into this, and I think I mentioned this on the show several times discussing this, is like we'd played for like all these years with the films, and then in between the films, we had these action figures, we read the books, we kind of played out stories and things in our head and our
Yep.
ideas, and that kind of clouded things going in. I think, looking retrospectively, of course, looking back now, going into that, it wasn't a win-win situation really for George when you think about it, because we had all the books were a big thing back then, the EU, the old legends and stuff, and that gave you an idea of what the hell was going to happen, right?
Right.
And then of course all those years playing with the action figures, coming up with our own scenes and our own thoughts and what's this, that, and that, and then here we are. George didn't go the way we wanted, or some people wanted, and went that way, and we're all like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
People they struggled with it, but it happens. What are you gonna do? I mean,
Yeah.
he thinks one way, we think the other way.
Right. And what are we to do or say? I mean, he's the creator, the maker, right? So
Correct. Yes.
yeah, and in terms of like the hype too, I mean, we're going to talk about the marketing because I put that as a moment, something that stood out off screen. But I mean, and I've mentioned this on this show before. I think I've done it on other shows, but I'm going to do it again because it's so like vivid in my mind. But back then having to wait in line I remember waiting in line to buy tickets to a movie that was showing the trailer to the Phantom Menace, right?
Oh yeah, I remember that. That was for all of them, all three of them, if I remember right. People were still doing that. They were going. I think I did it for the Revenge of the Sith. I actually did that.
I think I
forget what
saw
movie it
Meet
was.
Joe Black or something like that,
Yeah,
like
it
a
was
movie that I
something-
wouldn't
yeah.
normally go see, but they
Then,
threw it in
yeah.
there, and so they got my $6 at the ticket theater, right? And I think in
Yeah.
that movie, I honestly went there, saw it. I think I left. I don't even think I
Yeah,
stayed.
I think a
for
lot
the
of people. I
movie.
think I might have. I can't remember, but that was ages ago. But
Yeah, but I mean, $6 to see Star Wars after 22 years of waiting, absolutely, right? So wait in the line to see that. That was also if I'm not mistaken, the very first trailer, or at least one of the very first that had ever been released on digitally. So I think QuickTime movies or QuickTime trailers at the time picked it up. They were the first to release it. And I think you got to see it. So it was in the theaters like the first 3 days exclusively. And then it went online worldwide that Monday or something like that. And that was an event of itself. I remember everybody at
because
work
I
just
remember-
shutting down.
I
to watch that.
remember even MTV did the music video, right? Like the Phantom Menace. I remember watching that just for that reason. I watched MTV at that point. It was 1999. Hadn't watched MTV since God knows when.
I
Right?
already checked out, right?
Yeah, but
Unless
they
you're
were
into
doing
the grind. But-
no,
okay.
no, definitely not.
No,
But they did the music video, or they were doing I forget what it was. I just remember it was on MTV, which I thought was odd because I'm like, well, this is a movie. Nothing to do with music. But they showed it because it was such a phenomenon and an event and a cultural thing.
Yep.
That it made it to that. So it was a big deal, obviously.
Yeah. So you wait in
So-
line to buy tickets to go see a movie just to see the trailer. Then tickets went on sale. So you had to wait in line to buy the tickets because there was no assigned seating.
Yeah.
Bought your tickets, and then you had to wait. I think they went on sale 2 weeks before. So I had already planned my PTO off for the week of the movie. And then 2 days before, I went and camped out. And I was not the first person there. I was like number 28 in line. Like, I'm not even like that cool, right?
Mm.
There were
Yep.
people that had been there after they bought the ticket and just pitch a tent 2 weeks before and had hung out at the theaters themselves. So because at the time you had to buy, just because you got a ticket didn't guarantee you were going to get the seat you wanted, right?
Yeah,
So you
there
had
was
to
no
wait in
reserve
line.
or- yeah, there was
Yeah,
no
to get
reserve.
in so that you could grab a seat so you weren't sitting in the nosebleed section. So this is what life
Well, I
was
like
like.
the
This is how
nosebleed
big it was
personally.
at the time.
I always got to sit in the back. That's my preferred. Back in the middle. That's where I got to be.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, I didn't wait in line. I didn't do any of that. I am not one to wait in lines. I hate that. I hate big crowds and everything. So I waited. I didn't even go see it opening night, which is shocking. My
Oh.
my girlfriend at the time thought I was nuts. She's like, "What the hell's wrong with you?
Yeah.
You went for the special release. You waited in line, did all these crazy things,
Yeah,
but
Knife
this you
7,
didn't."
right.
I said, "Yeah, but I know how things are." So I waited the day after, went up in the afternoon, got my ticket, and I was able to see it. And of course, I'd been tradition into the spoilers, so I kind of had an idea. Um, but I went in and it was great. It was fine. I was all right, cool. We're good. We're good. Because I was following at the time, StarWars.com. I was following it quite a bit. Like I
Yeah.
was on there almost every day,
Yeah,
following
that
it, watching
and
the webisodes.
Force.net was the other page I was at.
Yeah, and I remember even watching QVC at the time, buying things. I even got the watch of the battle droid that flips up. I still get
Oh,
it somewhere. I
nice.
don't know. I have no idea where the hell it is, but it's around somewhere. I have that. I think my daughter might have swiped it from me. It's probably worth $400 now or something. But I remember doing that. Like I was watching QVC. I wouldn't even normally do that. I'd be like, yeah, whatever. I don't, and then I was buying stuff on StarWars.com. They had the shop was on Star Wars itself. It wasn't, they
Right.
didn't,
It
give
was
it to a
all
third
Star Wars
party.
merchandise.
Yeah, it was all on StarWars.com at the time. How my times changed from that early days of the net, like the internet with Star Wars, to where it is now. It's crazy. They
Absolutely.
kind of grew up together, really, when you think about it.
Yeah,
But
no, definitely right around 2000.
yeah,
So you touched on something else too, the marketing itself, right? There was
yeah,
not anything you could. I mean, there was nothing you couldn't buy
yeah.
that didn't
True.
have Episode 1 logo on it, or Qui-Gon
Jar
Jinn, or
Jar,
Darth Maul,
Jar
or
Jar's
Jar Jar.
tongue. Yeah, Darth.
Oh, the popsicles. I mean, there's
Yeah,
there's websites that are dedicated to this. The Obi-Wan, was it Obi Ranch, the Obi-Wan Ranch? What am I thinking
oh, I
of?
didn't know. I didn't know. About
They've got a
that
bunch
one.
of collection of stuff as well, that you can go out there and take a look at it. But I mean, if you just go Google this stuff, there's websites out there that are dedicated just to chronicling, all of the stuff that had come out as far as merchandising goes. And then they took it to a whole nother level. I mean, there was like, the most egregious one was the Taco Bell, KFC, Pizza Hut. Remember, Pizza Hut had the boxes of pizza with all the characters on them. You could buy the toppers that went on your drinks from
Oh yeah,
Taco
yeah.
Bell, and they had scattered all three of them. They went even so far as to make three characters. I think one is Colonel Sanders. If you go to Wikipedia, I'm not even making this up. Go to Wikipedia, type in Colonel Sanders. You pull it up while I'm talking here. Go to type in Colonel Sanders, and you can see they made a Colonel Sanders character. They made a female character, I think it was for Pizza Hut, and I forget her name now. And then the Taco Bell was like the dog, and he was like force sensitive or something, right? They took the marketing well beyond, I think, anything that we had ever seen, and or even topped. And that's pretty indicative of the Star Wars movies. I think there were other movies that came out like Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith, and then Episode 1, 3D, and all that. They were already going in there, but they really did an incredible job. Maybe if you want to call it that, with the marketing, like to levels that we had never seen before. So
I
hats
can't.
off to them. I really think it changed a lot of the marketing and how movies marketed their movie, or movie companies marketed their movies going forward. I think they kind of set the precedence. Did you find the Colonel
No,
Sanders?
I cannot find it at the moment. I don't know. I might.
Colonel is spelled COLL.
I get that.
All
I get that, but
right,
I
you keep
don't
working
have.
on that. I'll keep talking here.
Uh, I can't believe you're taking it that serious. What was it? What is this thing? What am I looking for
You're
again?
looking for Colonel Sanders from Kentucky
Yeah.
Fried Chicken. He's in
Yes,
Wikipedia.
yeah. Oh, what do you mean? He's in Wikipedia.
He's
I'd have
there.
to look that.
All right. Well, Mike is hard at work over there. One of the other things that stood out, I think, for me, thinking back now off screen for Phantom Menace, is the spoiler. Right, the soundtrack had come out, and we all, if you picked it up, you kind of knew that Qui-Gon wasn't going to make it out of the movie, and that really sent a lot of people over the edge, myself included. I wasn't into spoilers at the time, Mike. I know you were, but I
Yes.
was not. And when I got that soundtrack, because it came out a couple days before, and I think the novel came out before that too. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, it came out before the actual movie. But yeah, those were definite spoilers. And then after that, they kind of, all right, they course corrected and stopped putting blatant spoilers in the titles of the songs themselves, which was probably a good thing. And I don't think we've seen anything like that since that time. So, and then the other thing, I guess, for the Phantom Menace is we can't not talk about it without talking about the technology breakthroughs and the advancements in technology and filming and that kind of thing that this movie presented. We got a lot of green screen for the first time. I remember when leading up to the movie, all of the 8 years before the movie actually came out, after it had been announced, there were countless interviews with George Lucas talking about how he was not going to need sets, and they were going to be filming behind, stuff like this, a green screen, and it was going to be the future of film, and
Which
eventually
goes
we wouldn't even
to
need actors anymore, right? He had mentioned that at one point, and people were
yeah.
like, "What are you talking about? This is not even possible."
Oh,
That
it's
coupled
possible.
with digital film. So this is the first movie that used digital. One of the first movies. I think there's another one that was right around the same time, but they
Yeah.
actually used digital film rather than analog film, and so that gave them some advantages and all that. So the those achievements in film, I think, can't be left unsaid. So, and we got that from the Phantom Menace, of course.
Well, here's the thing. Interesting thing is it takes me to, and I don't know if you've seen the latest on the what is it, Disney galleries, where they're talking about like we talked the volume on Igloo Media Roundtable, right? Where we
Yeah,
talked
right.
about how it's basically these screens that are in front of you, and the stage is set, and there's only a few props or whatever, and the actors doing their thing. That's what George was talking about all those years ago, and here it is in much better form, obviously. Um, and then it goes back to that line in Jurassic Park, with the whole, they're walking up the stairs and he says, "We're going to be out of a job," and he says, "Don't you mean extinct?" Uh, Technically, yeah, I think George was well ahead of his time there. Was it clunky? But had the fan, and I know everyone gets on about the green screens, this, that, and the other. Had this movie not happened and George not pushed all that, we wouldn't have Avengers the way it is, or even the new Star Wars movies and all that other stuff. Well, maybe we would. I don't know, but I know George always pushed that type of thing. Like, here's my idea, Phil, go make it happen. You know what I mean? Like, what do you? Oh, this thing that I did see that. I thought you were talking like a bobblehead thing.
No, this is the character Colonel Sanders from Star Wars.
Is that Marty McFly down there? That looks like Marty
That's
McFly.
That's the Pizza Hut lady that you see there. And then there's the
Oh.
remember the Yo Quiero Taco Bell Chihuahua?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he was like
All
force
right.
sensitive or whatever.
Okay.
But I mean, look, they
I don't
had their
remember
own
this.
characters made for this movie when it came out.
That's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's not what I was looking at. But
Well, no, I know because
I mean, I
it
saw
never
it,
showed
but
up.
I was looking for like a topper because you mentioned topper.
Oh,
and
no, yeah,
that's-
no.
That's what I was looking for. But anyway, all right. Well, my goof, no big
They
deal.
had
But
a-
I
no,
did see that. I did see that in my search. But anyway, back to what I was saying before Albert decided to cut me off with that joke there. He pushed things with with the green screen and all that other stuff. I know everyone says, but here's the thing: everyone forgets about the Phantom Menace is that there was actually a lot of props and a lot of puppeteering and all that other stuff that everyone doesn't realize. Like,
Yes.
I think it had the most out of all the films, and everyone seems to think, oh, it was all green screen. Blah,
Yeah,
blah,
it was
blah.
all green screen, all digital, and that really
Yeah,
wasn't the
no.
case. They had a lot
No.
of practical effects, a lot of small sets that they had filmed and used perspective, old school techniques. I mean, all that was definitely there. So,
Yeah.
they definitely had their fair share of CGI. Don't get me wrong. I mean, Jar Jar was a character that wasn't even conceivable, just a couple years before that. It wasn't until Jurassic Park came out that really people opened their eyes and said, "Wow, there's something here. We can do something with this." So,
Yeah.
fast forward to where we are today and what we saw with like the Rise of Skywalker and what they did with Leia, and then certainly what we're seeing with the Mandalorian.
Well,
This
they
is all
DH
proof of
people.
concept.
On top of that, like if you watch, what's the De Niro thing there that was just on Netflix there? What the heck was? Oh,
Yeah,
The
I know where
Irishman.
the Irishman. Yeah.
Yeah, they de-age him right there. I mean, it's an amazing thing, and it's crazy what they can do now. Like that, it's getting to, and like we were talking about the Unreal Engine 5, right? Which is what they use in The Mandalorian. They use the Unreal Engine, I believe, for most of what they were doing
Yeah,
with those screens.
one version of it. Yeah.
We talked about on the round table where we were breaking down where at some point you're not going to be able to really tell. I mean, we're almost there now. At some points, you're like, is that like? But anyway, enough about the technology stuff, sir.
No. All right. Well, let's talk about on screen now. So we've talked about
Let's
off
do it.
screen. Let's talk about on screen. And the first thing I want to kind of lead in with you, and I want to get your thoughts here on this because, there's so many lines now retrospectively looking at episode 4, 5, and 6. There's so many very casual, light mentions of things. The Clone Wars, right? For example, it's probably the prime example now, given how much we have with the Clone Wars. But that one line is all that's uttered in that movie, and we come to find out in Lucas's mind, he has his whole thing built out already. Beginning to end, exactly what the Clone Wars were to him. We couldn't even fathom what that was. But one of the things that's mentioned, is like the getting to see the Jedi Council for the first time. in my head, I had visions of what that looked like, and they were not too far
That
from what we saw, but they were not
no,
that exactly. No, I mean, things like the Jedi Council. We got like the Force, a lot more background and insight into what the Force is. The Sith is another one where, we knew we heard of Darth Vader, right? Lord of the Sith. What does that mean, right? There was a lot of speculation, a lot of debate, talk about what is the Sith, all that kind of thing. But we really hadn't seen any other Sith outside of Palpatine. And to have a character as menacing as Maul, and who was like just the epitome of pure evil, right? And I think they nailed it, right? Knocked it out of the park in terms of what they were going for in that character design. But these are all, I mean, those are three primary things that I think back about getting mentions of in the original trilogy, and then being able to kind of see that in full light, fully realized by George Lucas, and really get a sense. I couldn't really fathom the fact that it was much grander and much more impressive in his mind than in mine, if that makes sense. But
no,
anyways,
it does because like when you hear Yoda say, "I my own counsel I kept on who to train and everything," and you're thinking, all right, well, obviously Yoda's the head honcho there,
hmm
but I thought because when you see him in Empire, he's more humble, obviously. But this is what George was doing, the contrast, the
yeah,
fall, so to speak. So I get where he was going. I just wasn't picturing that in my head growing up as a kid. I was picturing it more of a monastery, like we talked about near
yeah,
where I lived. There was a monastery, and kind of more of a humble kind of monk like living. Not so much a That's the thing. It was more of a political uh type of council. It wasn't really,
yeah. It was
but
bureaucratic. It was over the
yeah,
top. It was
correct.
lavish in terms of the way it looked, and right. I
Yeah.
mean, all that was
I get where
not.
the contrast what he was doing with it and everything. Like you get it when you're like, oh, all right, you kind of when you explore it more later on down the line, which I did with the series and everything. And I'll get into my moment when we talk about it, why that it kind of triggered something going forward, which kind of led to where we are tonight with this whole operation that we got here.
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, I just that wasn't in my head, and then I remember when Sidious says the old Republic thing, like ooh, I remember lighting up, like oh wow, he referenced it. I remember all that. So yeah, it was good stuff.
yeah.
But
So I mentioned the living force. I want to talk about that just quickly
yeah,
because I think we're going to probably dive into that here in a little bit as well.
Mm.
But up until episode one, we didn't have. I mean, the force was the force, and that was it, right? There was no such thing as the
Yes,
living force versus the cosmic force, and no one really could even explain it. It was just the force, and it was all kind of encompassing. And Lucas throws this curveball at us, right? I mean, just hits us
I
with this.
remember when it
Okay, now
happened. Yeah, I
now
remember
there's
when.
there's another level here, and there's somebody who is like this advocate of it, and being Qui-Gon Jinn, and preaching to Obi-Wan about not focusing on living in the now. And I mean, it was just starting to really kind of blow your mind about, whoa, there's way more here than just a lot of hocus pocus mumbo jumbo kind of stuff, right? To quote a famous
Yeah,
person. But no, sorry, what were you
yeah.
gonna say?
No, I was gonna say that I remember watching that, and when he says the midichlorians, the thing that everyone kind of, and I remember cringing at
Well,
that
you're
time.
jumping into my controversies, but go ahead. I'll
Well,
allow it.
but
Go.
oh, all right. Well, because you're kind of talking about the living, it kind of rolls into one.
No, it
But
does. It does. Yeah.
I remember when it happened. I'm like George, why? And then after I seen it, I know I didn't like it, and a lot of people didn't like it because you want that mystery and the mysticism of it and everything. We want that magic wizardry stuff, and I get that, and I love that stuff. But then I'm thinking to myself, well, you got to remember when George wrote the original, there wasn't. He was more fantasy. Like I think he wanted to make it more science fiction. Like he was trying to achieve more reality, kind of ground based type stuff. I don't know. It was commentating on something, and it made sense to me at the time after the fact, like a couple years after, when I think the Attack of the Clones came out. I kind of got it, and I was like, all right, it's not. It doesn't bother me because I know where he was going. The mitochondrial DNA and all that stuff that you got, and he was kind of trying to weave it into
Yeah.
where we could kind of understand it. And I, I I'm at peace with it. I wasn't at that time, but I remember that was my one cringy moment in the whole film. Like, George, I disagree with you on this, but it is what it is. I was okay with it. Now I'm
Yeah.
okay with it. It's fine. It's not that big of a deal to me. But
Yeah, and to me, it was we were talking about doing, at least I was talking about trying to do another show on midichlorians, I don't know if there's any interest in that or not.
Well, we
but
did one way back in the day. I
way
don't know
back
if,
in the day.
yeah, I don't. That was one of our first shows. I don't know if we want to go back that far.
I think
But
it's time we revisit that topic.
well, maybe.
Maybe we will. But my quick take on midichlorians is, to me, it always felt like it was just a way. It was a metric, right? He needed a way to explain that Anakin
Yeah.
was the chosen one, and that there was some way that they could measure the fact that he was definitely different, more powerful than Yoda, whatever that he was trying to get to, and he couldn't find a
Anomaly.
way to, like, what am I trying to say? Measure that in some way, right? And so he had to come up with this thing called midichlorians, and that way there was a way to kind of relate it and give you something that you could kind of, focus in on, going, oh, okay, there's a number behind this, right? There's a 20,000 or whatever, the 30,000, whatever the number was. So I think
Yeah.
that was really it. And beyond that, I think people kind of ran with it and took it a little too far, in my opinion. But that's a story for another day. So that was one of the controversies, and we'll come back to the second controversy, because I do want to talk about one last thing that the Phantom Menace, I think, really did a great job of doing, and in retrospect, I now appreciate it more, way more than I did at the time. But when I say characters like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Sheev Palpatine, Anakin Skywalker, C-3PO, R2-D2, Padme Amidala, Darth Maul, right? What do all those characters have in common besides being in the first movie?
I was
We
just gonna
got-
say that.
we get their origins, right? I mean, we got
Yes.
this was the first light that we had seen of these characters, and some of them probably had previous history before that. I mean, I get it, right?
Yeah.
But
Well, we got Luke's mom. I remember thinking like, oh, that's Luke's
mom.
mom.
yeah,
like-
or seeing Bail Organa and going, wow,
Yeah.
that's Bail. I've heard about him, never
Yeah.
actually seen him. I didn't know he was Mexican.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But the
Surprise.
surprise. I was like, yes, we got one
Yeah.
over there. No, but no, seriously, these characters, we had never really seen them before. We had heard about them, and it's only, to be fair, it would only be years later before we actually truly appreciate it. You think about those characters now, and there's so much rich history in every one of those characters that's come about over the years because of just being around in Star Wars. But and then you think of like Obi-Wan Kenobi, obviously is a big one, but not to touch on what we just talked about, but like Darth Maul, right? I mean, that's one of probably the big surprises there, given the fact that in that movie we thought, well, he's done. He was really cool. He looked awesome, and he's gone, forever gone. We'll never see him again. That was really dumb, George. And then here comes the savior, Dave Filoni, brings him back, and
Well, technically,
accepts it. He accepted the
George-
challenge. George brought him
Yes.
back. It was his idea. I'm not taking anything away from George.
because
But
Dave
he
was like, he died.
Well, yeah, exactly.
I saw it, and everybody else saw it. Nah, we're gonna bring him back.
But Dave is the one that said, challenge
Okay.
accepted, George. I'll see what I can do.
Exactly, and he flushed him out perfectly. I think.
Yeah.
Like so much depth to him. I thought that was great. He did a very good job with that. So I mean, yeah, we got characters like that evolved later on down the line. That obviously we didn't know at the time. We're gonna turn into a even bigger deal. So,
Yep.
which is cool.
Very cool. Yeah. I mean, Rick Ole never panned out,
No,
but
sadly.
that was such a disappointment. He was like the first character they introduced, the first action figure they released.
You should have known then. It's just like,
Yeah.
what was the guy with the helmet there? Vizio? It was a Vizio? What was his name?
Captain Zubio or whatever?
Yes.
Constable
from,
Zubio? I don't know.
Yes, that's the
Force
guy.
Awakens?
Yeah.
All right.
I remember
So-
those rooms. Remember those days where he was Boba Fett and everything?
Oh, yeah.
those were the days. Those were good days.
The,
but anyway,
the Phantom, when we get to the Force Awakens breakdown, we got to talk about all the rumors and
I
wild
can't wait.
speculation. Oh, my goodness.
Great times.
Oh, where were we? Okay, controversy. So we talked about some of the great characters, and I'm going to talk about this person as not necessarily a bad character, because I've always said in the show, I've always liked the character, much like George Lucas has always said this was his favorite character, and I think he still stands by that today. I don't know if you believe that. I know a lot of people don't believe that. I think he's
No, I don't
They
think, that. No, I don't think so. I think he is now from the backlash. Like he's just, it's
Right.
like the underdog. So now he's like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just gonna
Yeah.
root for him.
yeah, he's
And I
always
want
been
him.
my favorite now.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
jerks.
He should have gave him the McClunky line. That's what he should have.
Oh, no. So we're talking
Actually,
about none
I
other.
got something for like I'm just gonna tease it here. Like when we get to do another after dark, I want to talk about, and it's funny because it was mentioned on some post. I don't know where it was. Like what would George Lucas done? All right, so it's been over 10 years, 20, whatever it is for these movies or whatever. He usually goes back and tinkers with them. What would he have done had he go back and tinkered with them if he still owned them? I just love to that what if with you later. But table that. We'll continue. Sorry,
Yeah,
sir.
speculate on what could have been changed, and yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great question. I can think of
Mm.
yeah, there's some things that come to mind, but we won't talk about it here.
It did not here.
Let's talk about Jar Binks.
Yes.
So, and we already talked about him at best. That was purely coincidental that it
Yes.
happened.
It worked out well.
Worked out really well. So good job on us. No, I didn't have a problem with him in the movie. I think when I saw the
didn't either.
movie, he was definitely jarring for me. I'm not going to say he wasn't. I think anybody that says, "Oh no, he was fine," I don't know about that. There was definitely moments in there, and of course, I don't want to even touch all the controversy around the stereotypes, right, between
yeah.
Jar Binks and Watto and all that. I mean, that was huge at the time, and
Yeah.
that's all been said. There's plenty of arguments out there, but the character himself, I didn't really have a problem with him. I think especially today, like if you go show this movie to the younger generations and the younger audiences,
Oh, my daughter likes
you
him.
relate. Yeah, they do relate to him, and that was the point. I mean, Lucas wins here 100% down. You can hate him all you want as an adult, or you could have hated him all you wanted as an adult back then, and even to this day, that's totally cool. You're missing the point. It wasn't for you. That character was not for you. That was a character for a whole
kids,
other group generation for kids
Yeah.
to latch on, and they do even to this day. And I'm not saying that my family is any kind of model family or the test right for all of this, but I can tell you that you talk to other people that are showing this movie to kids even to this day, it does resonate with them. It is a character that it's young, it's goofy, over the top, right? There's a lot of visual sight gags and stuff that's happening. That's the stuff that resonates with children. I'm just glad that Michael Jackson didn't get the role like he wanted to. So, anyways, but what are your thoughts on? And that's a true story, by the way. But what are your thoughts on Jar Binks?
I'd never had an issue with him. I think the only thing I remember is like when they were looking at him, I know it was off a little, like when Qui-Gon's looking at him, and because I remember seeing the technology, they showed what they were doing with the character prior to release, and so when I saw it, it threw me off because I knew where Ahmad's head really was. But I didn't have a problem because I just like you kind of know why he put him in there. You know what I mean? He's like the court gesture of the films,
Right. Yep.
So to speak. You get the kind of like the mythology or where he was going and the importance for the kids. Like I'm very surprised my daughter likes him. She's like, "Oh, I like Jar Jar." I'm like, "Really?" Because I'm like indifferent. I mean, I know we did a Christmas special way back in the day with our friends from Coffee with Kenobi where I was defending Jar Binks. Because that's typically me. If someone likes something, I'll typically not like it. Or so if you hate it, yeah, exactly. I do the counterculture thing. That's the punk rock in me. I like punk rock and stuff. So, I never really had a big issue with Jar Jar. And Ahmad Best, I thought he did a great job for what it was and what he was trying to accomplish at that time. It was groundbreaking. It wasn't like it hadn't been done before. So I thought it was pretty cool. I never had an issue with him. It's Jar Jar.
It's Jar Jar. No.
Yeah.
But definitely,
like my daughter actually loves Bombard Jedi in the Clone Wars. She loves that episode, and that's one of those. And funny, I laughed the other day because the droid episode came up, and I was like, "Oh God, I'd rather have the Bombard Jedi episode than the droid episodes that we get." But continue.
I'd rather have those than Zero the Hutt, but that's again another conversation. So, so Jar Jar and midichlorians were probably the big controversies from that movie. I don't know. We don't have any science behind this. This is just kind of our thoughts and opinions here. Let's talk about, I guess, the final two big moments I think for this movie were definitely the Podrace.
Yep.
Which is one of my favorite parts. I go back and forth between what did I enjoy most about the Phantom Menace? Was it the Podrace or was it the Duel of Fates battle, which happens to be the last thing I want to talk about? But and I go back and forth because I think both of them they're different in their own right, of course. They've got a different feel to them. One is pure adrenaline, where the other one's high anticipation, anxiety kind of thing going on, right? But make no mistake, that scene rivaled at the time in many race scenes in other movies and continues to rival race scenes from movies today. That thing held up really well, and that's, again, this is just my opinion. But when I go back and watch it, I'm still like riveted by it. I'm still at the edge of my seat. I know what's going to happen. I've seen this stinking scene or the stinking race. I don't know how many times I can quote it back and forth, but it's still exciting. It's still gripping, and you still want to root for Anakin Skywalker. And you catch yourself, at least I do now, thinking, man, I'm sitting here rooting for this guy that's so horrible later on down the road. And I think that's exactly right. I mean, it's the charm of of Anakin Skywalker at this age, and there's nothing about him that's malicious. Everything is pure of heart. Everything is good in him. He is the light in this movie, and that's a great contrast to what we see just 2 movies later down the road. But anyways, the pod race scene, wonderful. I've always enjoyed it. Special effects are great. The adrenaline rush is great. It produced some great video games, some arcade games that came out
True.
that I enjoyed playing as well. So I mean, all that was just amazing stuff. But your thoughts on the pod race before we get into Duel of Fates?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I remember my father enjoying it when he watched it he liked that scene. It's not better than Bullet. I'll just say that chase scene's still the number one of all time. But it was really, really cool, and I love the sounds, the sounds, and again, Star Wars. I mean, it was just great. You felt like you were there. It was believable. It was awesome. I liked it, and Sebulba being Sebulba, I thought was pretty interesting, and I liked it. I thought it was pretty. I think the effects and the sound of it really just stood out to me, and like kind of capturing that fast pace even more than the speeder bikes back in the day, which was really cool. So
yeah, I think that coupled with the very end space battle, which wasn't always my favorite, to be honest. Now that we're kind of
it was a little weak
letting
when
it
you
all
compare
out.
it.
It was a little weak, yeah.
Yeah, but I think the main focus was obviously the Duel of Fates. But.
Yeah. I was going to say though, those two things. If you think about the pod race and the space battle at the very end, they both play into Obi-Wan telling Luke Skywalker that your father was a great pilot. You get to see him that he wasn't just a great pilot during the Clone Wars. He was a great pilot way before any of that had happened, right? And I think that's kind of what he was trying to do, especially with those two particular scenes.
There's a bit of a retcon there, but it worked.
Whatever. It worked.
It worked.
Yeah, there's a lot of retcon in Star Wars. Welcome to Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. This is your first day on the job.
Yeah.
No, but yeah.
Okay, Duel of Fates.
Yes.
And this may bleed into your moment. And if we want to just segue into that, we
that's
can,
fine.
certainly. But
we can.
But this was, I mean, you talk about what are the more epic, what are the famous lightsaber battles, which is always at top, and Obi-Wan Kenobi versus Anakin Skywalker, Revenge of the Sith is always up there, right? And if it's not that fight, it's usually this fight that it's jarring with. Now, there have been later ones, and I know, just cover yours, Mike Rondo, but the Last Jedi fight with Kylo Ren and Rey in Last Jedi, that's pretty good too. But for the longest time, many years, it's always been these two fights. We've always argued about which of these fights is better, and there's a reason why. You've got some amazing choreography, right? You've got what's his face,
Ray Park.
Ray Park in his absolute prime. I don't know what he was, like 19 years old or something like that, or 20 years. He was young.
Yeah,
he was really young. But you got this beefcake in Ray Park, and just his sheer ability, his sheer like martial arts ability on full display, which is just awesome. I mean, it absolutely is amazing. I mean, it rivals a lot of the stuff that you see even today in like some of these big budgeted martial arts movies and stuff. I mean, just the choreography was over the top. You got that coupled with the fact that we had never really seen Jedi fight like this before. We thought about it. We played with our action figures. We talked about it many times, speculated, had fun games about it and that kind of thing. But we had never actually seen Jedi fighting on screen in this way from a Star Wars film. And then not only that, but fighting a Sith Lord who was well beyond anything we had seen. I mean, don't get me wrong. The fight in Episode 4 between Kenobi and Vader was okay. It was pretty cool. It was great at the moment, in the time, and it still holds up well. And there's a lot of retconning that goes into why the fight was so slow paced, right?
Yeah.
Fast forward, we get the Luke Skywalker versus Vader fight. That was great. Not taking anything away from that fight, but that's not Duel of Fates. And even in Jedi, I'm sorry, Jedi was a great battle. It's got a very epic moment, but that grips you from a more emotional level, right? You're more emotionally attached and invested in that scene because of father and son fighting than you are from the pure, like, I don't know, pure adrenaline, Sith versus good kind of thing fighting that's going on from the Duel of Fates fight. So
it's on.
It's on.
We never got, exactly. It was, and that's why I get so excited when the one thing I'll give you a credit with Star Wars: The Old Republic is when you see that trailer and all the Sith ignite their lightsabers and all the Jedi light their lightsabers. Like, this is what we've always wanted.
Yeah,
please give us this, God darn it. And this is as close to that as we ever get in the films for now. I'll say that. Who knows what'll happen in the future? But this was it, and it was an interesting contrast because, as you look at the fight as it happens, and you see the contrasts in the styles, and in the Master of the Apprentice, and even in Maul, he's setting up a trap, doing his thing, and it kind of plays into what Obi-Wan learns later on. And Anakin says, "So what do? We spring the trap," knowing that they're going into a trap. Like, because Qui-Gon doesn't mention that or anything. It's kind of like a lesson that Obi-Wan kind of learns. I assume. I'm just assuming here. I could be completely wrong. But it was just like, and I know George at the time, I think he said he'd wanted to see the Jedi in their prime and the Sith kind of like in their prime at the same time. But were the Jedi really? Because they hadn't seen the Sith in 1,000 years. So it's not like they were fighting them a lot. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It was very interesting.
No,
the contrast.
that's fair.
Yeah. So, I mean, and this is probably why they lost the fight, really. Well, they won. I guess it was a draw at the end, right? I'd have to say that. My old co-host Brian used to go back and forth on this because he likes Maul, and he says the only reason Maul lost is because it was 2-on-1 and he was tired. And I'm like, no, stop it, you. Yeah, but that was his argument all the time. But
no, I get it. It's a fair argument. I don't believe it, but it is a fair argument. That guy, I mean, Maul was. There's just no way. I mean, there was many moments in there where he just got over cocky. He just got overconfident, right? And,
of course, because he took the master out. He was like, well, I'll take the. He had the high ground for a moment. He took the master out. I think he thought, oh, well, he's weak, and of course, Sidious is feeding him these lies of all the, we're better, and now here it comes, and he got over cocky, and this is what happens. So
I mean, if you look at it from the fighting perspective, just pure martial arts or fighting, saber, swordsmanship, whatever, Maul hands down beats both of them. Right? It's true.
Yeah.
He killed Qui-Gon Jinn, and he literally had Baby sitting there ready to. All he had to do was cut his fingers off, cut that little thing off, whatever, let him fall to his death.
Yeah.
So he wins on that level. What he didn't win on was the fact that he got overconfident and was more just embellishing the moment, lavishing in the fact that he had him, savoring it. Right. This is all Sith stuff, right? These are the traits that we know are the downfall of the Sith at some point. Look at Palpatine, right? But yeah, and so from that perspective, then I would say it's a draw because at the end of the day, the Jedi win. Maybe because he's back, but that's in the who knows.
Yes, true.
But anyways, so you hit on something here, and let's segue into yours. You hit on the fact that the different styles and different fighting styles, right? You've got somebody like Qui-Gon Jinn, who was not the model Jedi that we were seeing in Episode 1, or even what we probably had preconceived notions of from the first 3 movies, right? He was a totally different type of Jedi, and we need to do, by the way, a Qui-Gon Jinn episode, like an updated one.
Yes.
So let's do that.
Okay.
We're making the announcement here. We're gonna do a Qui-Gon Jinn episode.
Okay.
But
in 3 years from now, or when?
No, we need to get this out quickly because I've been dying to talk about this character, especially after Master.
Well, he's one of my favorites. He's one of my favorites. But
and
again, and to my moment, and the reason why Qui-Gon was such a character that I was drawn to is because again he went against what was the norm, which is kind of what I do anyway. Yeah, why make things easy on me? I'm going to go that way, and who knows what's going to happen. But I'm going to just bring up my moment here.
No, go ahead.
Albert, if you don't mind, because it was such a contrast. And then when it happens, you're like, yes, that is what a Jedi should do in a moment like this. And of course, Maul, the contrast, is doing what he should do, banging on the thing with his lightsaber. And of course, my moment is when he meditates, when the beams come out and separates everybody. Maul's ready to go, like he's just like patiently, like a predator, ready to pounce on an impala or whatever, like the lion just gonna eat you there. And Qui-Gon's just like, all right, I'm gonna stand on myself. I'm cool. I'm good. We're fine. And of course, you got the other contrast, which is down the hall, which is Obi-Wan, who's typical young guy, ready to run in and just be the hero, and not realizing you got to take a step back in these moments. And that's what Qui-Gon was doing. And the other interesting moment with Qui-Gon is, as he's fighting him, it's a kind of a defense thing, but as he's fighting him, he's trying to figure him out. Like, who are you? What are you doing? And that's where you get that kind of that pause, and he gets the fist in the face, and then he dies there. It's like Qui-Gon lost his train of thought because he's trying to figure him out somehow, not just the fighting style. Like, he was just kind of defending him, figuring, all right, my Padawan will be here soon, and we can kind of take him out. But I'm kind of trying to get something out of this character where I can figure out who the hell are you and where you came from. Yeah, it
Yeah,
gives
I
him
just want to say he gives him that one look at one point. And that look is so iconic. Like he just looks at him almost kind of like surprised, shocked, like he can't figure him out. And I think that's what you're hitting on there.
that's what I mean. And then you get
Yeah.
the boom, and and credit to Maul, he seizes the moment. He's like, all right, he's wounded. Now I take him out, like just like you would in the wild there with the lion and the gazelle or whatever. And that's what happens. And then of course Obi-Wan. Then we get the other great moment as part of this fight is where Obi-Wan just gives into his darker side. I
He
would say
touches the dark side.
he does.
Absolutely
He
does.
was, and that was probably the highlight of the fight when they're in that little thing when they first clash, and they're doing their thing and tumbling and all that stuff. That was like epic stuff. That was awesome. And then Obi-Wan gets in his predicament and then he does his thing. But that is my moment because even when he meditates, it triggers something in my mind to seek out like why is he meditating and being calm in this thing? Which is why I get into Stoicism, Buddhism, and all that, Taoism, and all that. Like I went and explored that, and that all came out after Revenge of the Sith. I got into it even more. And Qui-Gon was that character that kind of sticks out like a sore thumb when you want to get in and kind of explore those types of things. And that's why we're sitting here doing the Cantina cast today, because I got into all that stuff. And this is what the show is all about, really. At the end of the day, is that curiosity of why this is that. But get into your moment, sir. I'm curious.
Well,
about
let
yours.
me touch on a couple things
Okay,
too. 'Cause I do
sure.
want, so for me, when he goes down to meditate, like
Yeah.
up until that moment, yeah, you're right. There are like Qui-Gon is Qui-Gon throughout. I mean, he's the master Jedi. There's nothing that shakes him, nothing that rattles him throughout all of the fighting. He's just very stoic the entire time, which is a character trait that I've always enjoyed about a lot of other characters, not just him, but those stoic characters seem to be the ones that like resonate with me the most for whatever reason. So from that alone, he was kind of a standout character. But when he goes down and kneels, I mean, given everything that's going on, as chaotic as things are, as emotional as they are, right? The idea that there's death that's looming, that could be potentially looming for him, that kind of thing. And I'm using specific words here because I want to go back to the Jedi Code. In that moment, in my head, he's going through the mantra of there's no emotion, there's peace, there's no ignorance, there's knowledge, no passion, serenity, no chaos, harmony, no death, the Force. That is like almost, you read that and that's exactly what's going on, right? There's a lot of emotion going on. There's ignorance because they don't know anything about who this character is or where he came from. He's been breathing in the shadows so long, right? There's a lot of passion, at least on the dark side of the Force, where they're absent. They should be absent of it, right? That battle is super chaotic. And what does he do? He takes a knee. He sits down and goes over this mantra, and knowing that, I mean, who knows? I mean, you don't even know. For all we know, he could have seen or knew that he was about to die. And willingly accepted it. And that wouldn't surprise me now because we're doing a Qui-Gon Jinn dissection and we shouldn't be doing this, but that wouldn't surprise me given what happened in Master and Apprentice, right?
Yeah.
We know he was big on Force visions, and that's really what kind of led him down to truly believing into Anakin as the chosen one. But nonetheless, again, I don't want to, I'm doing a Qui-Gon dissection.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
No, you're fine.
He's very easy to
I'm ready to
jump
go,
into.
man. Let's go.
I know. Once you get because we got more information on him, right?
Yeah.
So when you get that picture gets, more filled in, we want to sink our teeth into it, but we can't do that right now, sir. We can't.
No, okay. I'll pull it
snippet,
back a little bit.
Little snippet, and that was it.
Well, that was the one I wanted to mention, the Jedi Code, because I think that was what he was doing. Kind of going over that there in his head. And then the other thing was when Obi-Wan Kenobi jumps in and he's got that look on his face of almost like revenge. The thing that I always thought of was the quote from The Empire Strikes Back when Luke asks Yoda, "Is the dark side more powerful?" And he's like, "No, it's easy, more seductive." Right?
Oh yeah.
That was, I think, on full display when Obi-Wan kind of comes in. I mean, he's channeling that, and he's become more powerful because he's been seduced by the fact that because of his anger and because of his hatred and all the emotion now that he was feeling because he had just lost the master. And all of this is compounded. Again, I'm going to go back to Master and Apprentice, Claudia Gray. Thank you very much. But all of this is compounded because of that storyline. When you understand where their relationship was and what they had to go through to get to the point where they were just in sync like that and being so, perfect for one another, that explains so much as to why. I mean, don't get me wrong. Any Padawan that loses their master is going to be upset. This was super personal, though, to Obi-Wan for a lot of different ways, on a lot of different levels. that happen and are explained in Master and Apprentice. So
True. Yes.
thank you very much for coming tonight. We'll talk to you. That's my TED Talk. No, let's let me do so I'll talk about my moment.
Yes,
And
please.
it's probably not as cool as yours. And
Oh,
so I was trying to
really?
like
Wow.
no, I think it is.
No,
Maybe.
it is, but I'm just.
Well,
you're-
here's why, and
you're
I'll give you some
downplaying it.
context. No, it's actually, I'm going to tie it back to Qui-Gon Jinn. Just stay with
Yeah.
me here.
Okay.
So,
Go.
there's a lot of great moments in the Phantom Menace. I don't know, that it was really hard to just kind of pick one. And then you were going with this one, so I was like, all right, he'll have that one. He can take that one.
Oh, thank you. Next week you can have the Attack of the Clones moment.
Yeah.
Mine's really gonna just be the seismic charges, but no, I'm only kidding.
Yeah,
But
right. Yeah. So I was really struggling between the Ben Quadraneros moment. No, I was struggling with the Duel of Fates moment, and then the moment when Anakin leaves his mom. Right. That scene is all of about, I don't know, minute, 40 seconds, something like that, 2 minutes most. But I think there's a lot in that scene itself. You've got, one, we get to see the Jedi do what they do best, which is steal your children.
yes, that's
They've come
true.
in.
But he
they've
did it
come in.
nicely though.
He did do it nicely. No, and
He
that was a
didn't-
joke.
But the others just take. He kind of was nice about it. But anyway,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah, no, I get it. And there was some, right, there was I don't know, you could argue that, okay, well, he really wanted him because, so
Well, he
Qui-Gon
did
wanted
cheat.
him, he cheated,
did
right?
cheat. Yeah,
But he was
so,
going
I
to do
mean,
whatever he needed to do because he truly believed that Anakin Skywalker was a chosen one. He tells that to Obi-Wan at the very
but
end, his last
if you
word
believe
before
that,
he dies.
wouldn't the dice have gone that way anyway? If you
No,
truly
not
believe that?
necessarily.
No, all right. Just
It's the will of the Force, way of the Force. It's
Is
as the
it-
Force wills
So
it.
everyone's paying for Qui-Gon's mistake of meddling with the dice. If they
Yes.
just let it go. All right, but anyway.
Yeah.
Continue.
No, so that scene one introduces this concept of the Jedi taking children, and I know it's not the same, but the other thing that it does is it really, for me, when Anakin Skywalker is talking to his mom, he's ready to leave, and he turns around because he's scared, right? He's absolutely fear, and this is the fear that Yoda senses him when he gets out to Coruscant, right? He's I sense much fear in you. He's scared of what's going to happen, and rightfully so. He's a child. He should be scared, and that was one of the things that always bothered me. Is like, well, yeah, he's a kid. I mean, how do the Jedi seem to think that it's not okay to have fear and not to be able to not understand that and work with it? And that's part of their downfall, right? And I think that's why people like Luke Skywalker and Rey Skywalker and
Ahsoka.
everybody else they're Ahsoka, right? They're all better because of that. They acknowledged all of that. But at least but that was a good indicator of the fact that he was very emotional. He was very scared. And that line of, will I ever see you again? And his mom replies back, what does your heart tell you? I'm not going to say it was mom's fault, but I think that enabled him to really go and follow his heart, follow whatever he felt really passionate about doing, which is against the very code that we just talked about a minute ago, right? But the fact that you had Qui-Gon Jinn, who will go against the code, and we know Qui-Gon Jinn, again from Master and Apprentice, he had a lover, right?
Yeah.
At some point he did, just like
So did the other
Avaros.
so did our other, yeah,
Avaros had a lover, right?
One of my favorite Jedi that we don't get to talk about is that dude. He was
He's
cool.
awesome.
But
Yeah. So
Continue.
I mean, so you got the mom that's saying, follow your heart. That's not what the Jedi really should be doing. But because of that, I think he listens to mom. I mean, he takes that advice and he applies that throughout all. And we don't get to see this, and I'm purely speculating here at this point. But I really believe that was something he held on to dearly because he was scared. He wanted to. He believed in his mom.
And
Wanted
it's
to go
their
back
last
and save
moment.
her. It's their
Yeah.
last moment, right? He's holding on to that, and so that in itself probably drove a lot of conflict for him as he's going through these teachings of, what it's like to be a Jedi and how he can't have emotion and that stuff. I think had he not been trained by Obi-Wan, I think Qui-Gon would have allowed him to exercise that and believe in all that.
Oh,
and
they would have took off to Tatooine every now and then because Qui-Gon had a thing for Shimmy there.
Oh,
so-
well.
I don't blame him.
Shimmy.
Shimmy,
Yeah.
sorry, I always say
Yeah, I know.
Shimmy. I
Shimmy,
don't know.
whatever. Shimmy,
Yeah,
shimmy,
yeah, that's the Rhode Island way we say it. But anyway,
yeah. But yeah, had he not been trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi, he would have been able to work with the fact that he had feelings and work with his emotions and work through all of that. I think Qui-Gon
Yeah.
would have enabled that for him. but he didn't. And I think that's what really put him in a bad position. And we, fast forward to the clone Attack of the Clones, and he's a very different person at that time. You can see a lot of fear in him. I think Hayden Christensen did a good job with that. You can definitely see the fear is still there, but he does look like he's conflicted in a lot of different ways. And I think, again, a lot of it is because his mom said, follow your heart. And he's been told and trained for like the last 5 years or 6 years, whatever time that passes, that's something he shouldn't be doing. There's a moment, and again, sorry, I'm going to Master and Apprentice because I want to draw the parallel between Qui-Gon Jinn and Anakin Skywalker. In the novel, at the very end of the book, and literally, like, this is a spoiler alert, so if you haven't read it, go read it. If not, keep listening. But at the very last chapter,
it's been like a year, man. Why do you?
Okay, it's probably off. It's on limits now, or not off limits.
Yeah.
At the very last chapter of the book, they make Qui-Gon Jinn the offer to join the council. Right?
Yes.
They tell him, "Hey, dude, you've done it. You're awesome. We know that you buck from time to time. You go against the grain, but they even acknowledge it. We could use,
oh yeah,
we could use that on the Jedi Council." And they're right. I mean, that's the one thing that I'll give the Jedi Council. They acknowledge that they do need maybe a vying opinion here, and not have to, and just not do the status quo that they've always done for so long. Yeah. And so they make Qui-Gon Jinn this offer, and he turns it down. And in the line from the book says, "My relationship to the Force has changed. I wish to be silent for a while, to surrender to it, to accept whatever the Force brings. Joining the council would take me far away from that goal, but this is the path I must follow." That, for me, maybe he's not following his heart per se, right? But he believes that he needs to follow something that's guiding him in a different way. Even if that means going against the council and joining them, even if that means going against the Jedi code, right? Breaking rank with the day-to-day mantra or the dogma, right, of the Jedi and their religion, that kind of thing. He acknowledges that there's something else that's driving me, something else that's pulling at me. And for Anakin, it was following his heart. For Qui-Gon Jinn, it was following the Force. Are they one and the same? I don't know. Maybe there's an argument. They're very closely related. I think one drives the other. One could drive the other, depending on how you interpret the Force and how you channel and manifest it, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that was a very pivotal moment in the Phantom Menace. And I think it's a moment that gets overlooked a lot because it's a very quick scene and we don't think of it. But if you look back, everything that we know of Anakin Skywalker and much of the conflict that exists from it stems right there in the moment. It is not the be-all, end-all of that conflict. There are plenty of other things that happen, including the death of his mom. But the fear that he has, the anxiety that he has, and the advice that I think he chooses to follow because of his mom, that's the kind of the first domino that falls along the path of him becoming Darth Vader.
It kind of reminds me like when my daughter asks me a question and I give her an answer, but I kind of forget about it. Like it's kind of like advice to kind of guide her to where she needs to go. It's something not as serious as going off with a Jedi and becoming a Jedi or anything like that. It's just something I'll tell her to calm her down or something later on we'll do or whatever. And she will hold on to it. I myself won't, because I think, okay, it's helping her. But 2 days, 5 days, a week, a month later, she reminds me of whatever I said
this.
And holds me to it. And it's like, oh, so what you're saying, I get what you're saying. Like a 9-year-old, and she's 9 now, you get how they, like, it makes more sense now. Yeah, exactly. And they'll hold on to what you are saying. They will hold you to it. Yes. Trust me, because I get reminded of it all the time. So yeah, you're right. At this point, maybe this was as Yoda says, he's too old to begin training. Well, yeah, he's 9 years old. He's at that point where he kind of figures things out on his own, kind of needs still advice and kind of needs to be taught, but can kind of make some decisions on their own, like in between, like can figure things out. And that's kind of like a bad danger zone. And I think what you're saying is he got stuck in this, and this kind of like and it's happened to me as I was, getting older or whatever. You have one thing that sticks in you and just gnaws at you, like the Boba Fett thing with his armor. And it just sticks with you and you can't let go. And that's what happened here with Anakin. It's that seed that grew into a big darkness type thing. So
yeah, no, they're definitely impressionable. Yeah. They definitely remember what you say. And I mean, how many times if you're married and got kids, how many times have you said, well, the other parent, mom, dad, mom said, do this, or mom says we always have to do it this way, or I mean, they do remember this stuff and they hold on to that stuff. And all I'm saying is Anakin definitely did that here. He followed his
Yeah.
heart because, like his mom said, and that led to a lot of great things, and unfortunately led to a lot of bad things. So there you go.
I like it. Very good.
All right, well, that's the show. We'll see you guys later.
Yay.
No,
Got a few things.
we got a few things we got to talk about before we get out of here. Let's talk about the network.
Yes.
So we are pleased, happy as pals here that we've got a social media manager now on staff. So Kat is our social media manager. I think she's watching, listening to the show. Hopefully she is. If not,
yes.
welcome
I just
aboard,
want Kat to know this was going to be my shout out, but Albert beat me to it in the show.
Oh,
notes.
sorry, I didn't mean to take it from you.
No, that's okay. I mean, I was just going to shout out because she was an original Cantina Cast listener. Like she was at, I think, show number 3 maybe. So
Oh,
she's
wow,
been in
really?
it as long as me. She's been into this whole disaster. So thank you, Kat, and I'm glad to have you on board and to do the social media stuff for us. And it's great. It's cool.
Yeah.
I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, and
She's done a great job so far.
She's done a
Yes.
really great job. If you noticed, we've been a lot busier on social media. That's because there's now 3 people, 1 person that's dedicated to it. But Mike and I are still definitely posting in there. So
You can definitely tell when I post something with an image because Albert gets mad at me. Although we're working on that situation too. I usually get hell for it when I post, but whatever.
I wouldn't go
What?
that far, but yeah,
Well,
I have.
I mean, the insults just come right immediately. Just
Yeah,
anyway.
I know. It's
They-
all from
they-
Jonesy.
yeah, well, it's deserved to be honest. I know it's crappy, but we got to do something.
You got to do
But anyway.
something. All right.
Yes.
Well, yeah. Congratulations. Welcome aboard. Keep up the
Yes.
good work. And certainly, again, she's posting stuff for us. But if you guys want to interact with us, we're there. Don't get me wrong. You can definitely interact with us on social media. We're checking it as well. So.
Well, she lets us know. That's the good beauty of having her involved with like the email and all that stuff. Like you can get a hold of us because that was one of our biggest problems.
Couldn't keep up
she,
with it.
Yeah, she was going through things and saying, "Guys, you got emails from eons ago." Like,
Years ago.
whoopsie. So I apologize if we never ever got to you. It's because we just didn't see it. But anyway,
Yeah.
carry on, sir.
All right. Well, that's the shout out / network thing. Let's talk about the shows that we got going on right now in the network just quickly. So Petticoats and Poppies, that they just released last week, The Great Wall. Did you ever see The Great Wall?
No.
The movie The Great Wall? This is the one
I have
with
not.
Matt Damon
Yes,
that everybody,
yes.
yeah. So,
Yes. I
the
know
jokes
of it.
was starring Mark Wahlberg, but it's not really Mark Wahlberg. It's got Pedro Pascal in it. Anyways, this is so that movie or the Petticoats and Poppies. If you're not familiar with the show, it's one of the shows that we produce, and Nicole and Maggie do an amazing job on talking about movies and talking about it from a historic perspective, but also from in the industry. Both of them are tied into the movie industry, and so it's a really cool and very unique way in terms of how they break down movies. But in this episode, they really get into I'm going to say riffing is probably the good word. They really tear it up, like make fun of it in a very productive way and talk about what's accurate, what's not accurate, that kind of thing from the Great Wall.
I would imagine that whole movie is not accurate, if I had to guess.
There are
Just
some elements
judging.
that I learned
Yeah,
that
the
I
wall.
didn't know.
The wall was there.
The wall was there. Yeah, absolutely.
China, yes, that's there. Yeah, but I'll leave
But
it
yeah,
to the girls to discuss that.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're the experts, not me. I'm just giving my stupid opinion here, but yes, the girls know what they're talking about. I don't. But anyway.
Yeah, so that's good. Take a look. Let's listen to that one. We did EGM Roundtable last week.
Yes,
we're
number
still doing
4,
that.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Of
What's
course,
going on there?
Albert's a bad boy and got a copyright strike on us. So
I played one Journey song, one Journey video.
well, that's the problem. Your problem is Journey. You can't help yourself, and now we're in a little bit of trouble. But that's at the but we'll be fine. I'm not worried about that. But yeah, that's a roundtable we have for the network where we all get together and kind of talk about odd, useless things that have no bearing on your life. And it's a lot of fun. We talked ghost stories. I had a ghost story I talked about, and Albert was inquiring about things. He was asking questions of me, putting my feet to the fire. And we talked about Joe Rogan. We talk about everything under the sun, really. That's kind of interesting. I got a new one that I want to talk about next week about an artificial eye that's actually better than the human eye that they can put in. That'll lead to a fun conversation, I'm sure. Plus
T1000.
SpaceX. Yes. So when we get to SpaceX this weekend, hopefully it launches. That'll be on the agenda as
yeah,
well.
Saturday.
So yeah, we're all over the map with that show. So tune in. It's a lot of fun. We laugh and they all pick on me. So it's always good.
Yeah, that's always a good time.
Yeah.
The let's see, 3/4 to play. What are you doing there? Heard you got a new game. I can kind of see it there in the background.
Well, I did that one, the Pac-Man one, right?
Yeah.
Right there. I did that.
Yep.
Now this week I'm going to do one on the NBA Jam Cab that's coming out in June. They moved it up. I actually canceled my order and then ordered through Walmart, but I'll get into that on 3/4. But I'm actually doing an episode probably tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to talk about my concerns about the cabinet and what I think could be problems with it or won't be, but I'm going to talk about that this week and whatnot. So yeah, I got things going on with it, man. Good stuff.
Good for you. No, it's good. It's nice to see your collection growing. I don't know where the next 5 cabinets are going to go, but I'm sure.
Oh, I got room. I'll make room, sir. Don't you worry. I mean, I might be podcasting in the shed at some point, but
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah. Let's see. And then finally, before we go, the Film Pricers, they wrapped up their Goodfellas episode, which was great. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that, that's one of my favorite movies all time. Then they did a 2019 reconciliation. So I think they went back and looked at the movies that they had already reviewed, I guess, the year before, which was kind of cool, and talked about it. They talked about Labyrinth, which is an amazing movie. I don't care what Joe says.
Yeah, Joe's wrong about everything.
Joe's wrong about everything. But anyways,
he's
take a listen to that to them as well. I think they've got a new episode coming out tomorrow, but I don't know what it is. Otherwise, and I don't want to spoil it. Even if I could, I wouldn't. So
well, they'll have one this weekend. So look for that. Yeah.
Yep, that's coming out too. Beyond that, nothing else going on. I think we're done here.
No, I think we are. So I hit the button. I hit the right ones.
All right, we'll be back next week with the Clone Wars or Attack of the Clones. Bye, I gotta go.
Yeah, see ya.
You're still listening? Wow, that's amazing. Well, I'm here to give you the disclaimer. Normally we do a big, long, drawn-out disclaimer thing saying what's what and who's what and all that other stuff, but I think you guys kind of know that Lucasfilm and Disney have no affiliation with us at all, and we have none with them. We talk about Star Wars, which is their property, and all that other good, fun stuff, but I think you can tell which is our stuff and which is their stuff. If you can't, well, then send a lawyer to send an email to me, and I'll be glad to chat with them. Other than that, you know what's what, so that's your disclaimer.